Hi, everyone. Welcome back for another edition of the NTI PodTalk. Today, we have with us a special guest presenter who is doing some presentations for NTI, Amber Stevens. And I want to have her tell us a little bit about herself because, of course, she is more of an expert on what she does than I am. But I just want to preface first of all, thank you for being here, Amber. Greatly appreciate it. So you are a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. And I think our audience would be interested in hearing what exactly that means, what your particular specialty is, where you went to school, what that certification means. So if you can talk about that, that would be great.
Certainly, yes. So a national board certified health coach simply means that I'm somebody who has reached kind of the highest level that I can in my health coaching career right now. So in terms of health coaching, it's very loosely organized and licensed across the country and even internationally. And that can lead to some problems when you have a career that isn't regulated. You know, in Colorado, anybody could almost wake up and call themselves a health coach if they felt like they want to. So how do you distinguish between people who have really put in the time and the effort to understand what it really means to be a health coach and others who just thought, hey, I think I want to be a health coach today? So some really smart people came together and they created some standards and regulations. And then that goes through a board approval with the medical examiners. So I have put in extensive training, advanced courses, and then sat for the board exam to become nationally board certified. So it means that I've met all the metrics that is considered standardized and necessary in terms of health metrics and food, motivational interviewing, behavioral goal setting, and accountability. All of those across the board. If you were to find me in Colorado or find me in England, we're going to meet the same metrics. And for me, I began my career at Institute for Integrative Nutrition, where I learned over 100 different dietary theories to understand all the types of ways that nutrition can benefit the body. And then I furthered that interest with my training in mindful eating, so that my niche really and the focus with my clients is the why behind we eat, why we're eating, and that food relationship concept that is so important to get right.
Yeah. Okay, good. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more here in a moment. So can you talk about maybe why you got interested in either health coaching or in the specific mindful eating aspect?
Sure.
Like, personal reasons, personal history
Yeah.
reasons, but what kind of things would motivate you to want to do that?
Certainly, yes. So I have a 14-year career in massage therapy at this point and love it, absolutely love it. But I was noticing for myself, there was some health issues that were arising. There was a lot of stress that I was taking on, and I wasn't eating in quite the right way. And so my own personal journey of just dealing with stress and managing, I was having panic attacks. I started fainting. It was not a pretty picture. And here I am working in health and wellness. I'm supposed to be healthy. And I went on this journey and I realized my stress levels were too high. I realized I was an emotional eater and that I could do something about it. And through that process, I discovered mindful eating. I didn't even know it was a thing. I didn't really pay attention to what mindfulness was. And that was a huge eye opener for me, and it changed everything. My health is so much better than it was. I don't faint anymore. I don't have panic attacks. I'm in this kind of lovely in control state through the mindful eating piece. And because of my own journey and my interest in nutrition as well, which actually started more like 20 years ago, I just knew that this would be a lovely complement to my existing practice with massage to add health coaching into it. So I could help my clients in ways beyond, just the physical external tissues, but really start to understand the internal body, the internal mind, and how that all plays together for well-being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's so important that to recognize that most people who go into a particular field, particularly in the holistic health arena, they come to it from a place of personal experience. And I think that's really powerful because when you have a personal experience something, you have a different level of passion about something, and that really shows when you're working with clients. So I think that's beneficial. And you also have at least one example of a positive outcome to share with your clients when you have gone through it yourself. So I think that's really helpful.
Right. I absolutely agree. The passion stays strong for it, but also the compassion, right? Since I have been there, I absolutely know what everyone's going through. So yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful blend I have going here.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Well, as I mentioned, you are a guest presenter for some seminars that we teach here at NTI. You have done an emotional eating seminar and are on the verge of, here in a couple of weeks, going to be doing a mindful eating seminar. These are enrichment classes, seminars that we are teaching in addition to our existing curriculum, and we are very happy and honored to have you come and teach those seminars for us. And you were the one who sought me out to see if we would be interested in having you teach some of these seminars for us. Can you tell us a little bit about how you found out about NTI and why you think, NTI and your business resonate with one another?
Yes, so you are right in my backyard, so to speak, here in Arvada. And you are in a building that used to be a coffee shop. And I would go there frequently to have my cup of chai because they had the best chai. And then unfortunately they closed. And I kept waiting and waiting. What's going to go in this building? I hope it's something cool. And a sign went up at some point that said future home of NTI. And I thought, what is this? I hope it's not a construction company. And I Google it real quick and it says Nutrition Therapy Institute. And I went, oh, that's exciting. This is a great fit in Old Town to have them there. And then I just got even more excited because I thought, health coaching and nutritionists go hand in hand beautifully. There are things in my practice that are out of scope of work for me that I can't do, but nutritionists can. Mm-hmm. And then there's other things that nutritionists often aren't fully trained in that health coaches are. Mm-hmm. So we're very complementary. And I saw you out because I wanted to bring my additional skills in mindful eating and emotional eating to help your students and graduates just really reinforce the training that they're getting through your school and have this additional layer that can help their clients beyond just the food on their plate. So it's a beautiful blend, and I'm so happy to be teaching these classes with you.
Yeah. Well, so in regards to the coffee shop thing, we still have people walk in the front door and kind of do a double take, like, isn't this a coffee shop? Like, still. So, we joke that we're going to put a sign up that, no, this is not a coffee shop. Or we're going to start making business. Yeah, or we're going to start making coffee to get people to come in the door. But so you kind of laid a really good foundation of the relevance of mindful eating for a holistic nutrition professional to add to complement the tools that they can use with their clients. Is there anything else that you can say about that? Because I think that, for us who are nutrition therapists, it's kind of like, well, you just eat the right things and you don't eat the wrong things and things will get better, but there's a much bigger component. And so can you talk a little bit more about the relevance of mindful eating in a nutrition strategy?
Absolutely. Mindful eating isn't about the food on your plate really at all. It's about the way you relate to that food, and it's about your awareness in your own body and when do you want to eat? How full are you currently while you're eating? How much do you like this food? How satisfactory is it for you? So it's really awareness around the food on your plate. Somebody could be eating a piece of bacon or they could be eating an apple. It wouldn't matter. The techniques are still the same. But what is important for it and what mattered for me was that I could look at food in a different way, and I could understand which ones helped my body and made me feel good and gave me energy, and which ones actually were taking energy away from me, making me tired, not really serving my needs. They were both giving me calories. Some just weren't very good for me. And
Mhm.
we eat so mindlessly right now in our society that we just put things in our mouth and we don't know if it's good for us or not. And then we start feeling, maybe symptoms of disease, and we're going, what's happening? Or we're gaining weight. And of course, we start looking to diet plans. And mindful eating is not a diet plan. It's a way of eating. It's a practice. And so bringing that into an understanding with your nutrition clients to be able to say, look, we're going to look at everything that's on your plate, and we're going to help you eat foods that are more nutritious for you. But we also have to understand what it is that are trigger foods for you. What do you crave? And what are the things that are going to pull you away from this effort that we're doing together? Because it's not helpful to just say, hey, come on, I gave you the spirulina energy balls.
Yeah.
You
Maybe
just
a
eat
plan.
those.
Yeah.
There's a lot more going on. And so knowing some of these practices around mindful eating that can help people pay attention to themselves is really important.
Mhm. Yeah. I totally agree. So it's not necessarily about, you know, um, oftentimes people think that eating nutrition, eating for health, eating healthy means strict avoidance of everything that is quote unquote unhealthy. And, you know, there may be some room in people's diets for ice cream, heaven forbid, as long as there's a mindful intention behind that. So I think that's a really great way to think about it. So you've talked a little bit about your own experience. Do you have any client stories that you could share where you've seen this be really beneficial in a client outcome?
Oh, yes. I think one of my favorite all-time stories is a client that I've been working with for a while. And she came to me more as a last resort, really. She had tried all the diets. She had felt like she had quite a bit of weight to lose. She had done the, Weight Watchers and Jenny Craig and stuff. And she just said, this is my last stop before surgery. And I was clear with her. The way my practice works, it's not specifically focused on weight loss.
Yeah.
Weight loss can be an outcome of mindful eating techniques, but that's not the be all end all that we push for. And she was on board with it. She said, let's give it a shot. And we worked for a while, and she had a social engagement to go to. I believe it was a wedding. And we worked on some strategies leading up to the wedding. And she came in and she sat down and she was just beaming and smiling. I said, it looks like you had a good trip. And she said, I ate a cookie. I said, okay, great. And how was that? And she goes, it was good, but you don't understand. She said, I didn't always tell you everything when we were working together. And she said, you know that I love my cookies. She said, but when I would go to social stuff, I would eat 1 or 2 cookies, but then when people weren't looking, I would push cookies off the table into my bag. And then I would go home and I would binge on those cookies while people were sleeping, or I'd get up early in the morning and eat them. And she's like, I couldn't stop myself. I would have all these cookies. And she said, this trip was different. I picked out of all the desserts, the one cookie I wanted. I smelled it. I savored it. I enjoyed it in the moment with my family and friends. And then that was it. She said, I didn't grab any more cookies. I was completely satisfied. I went home satisfied. She's like, it's amazing for me. And I was just beaming. I was like, oh my gosh, she understands it. She's practicing it. It's working. And as a result from those practices, she did lose weight, quite a bit of it. And I think the bigger thing though is that she felt so much more confident in her body and who she was as a person. And she had the confidence to even just step out more in being who she is. And she even changed jobs in the middle of it. I mean, it really brought some awareness and livelihood around everything. So that's certainly one of my favorites. I think another favorite is that we often get caught up with the number on the scale. And I had a client who would weigh herself 2, 3, maybe 4 times a day. And of course, our weight fluctuates a lot throughout a day. So she was always getting numbers. And we worked a lot around, what does that number mean to you? What's the benefit you get from being on the scale? What's the pain that you get from being on the scale? And it was several sessions of just talking around the mindset of that number and its significance before we even got to talking about the food that she was actually eating. And it turned out her diet was pretty healthy. She only needed a few minor tweaks here and there, but she was very, very concerned with that number. And we eventually got to a point where she came in and she said, I put my scale in a closet a week ago and I haven't pulled it out and I don't plan to. And I said, okay, this is really good.
Mhm.
So it works, but it's a process. And if people, really commit to that process, then there's some major transformations that happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Really good stories. Thank you for sharing those. So can you, I think that there is potentially some misunderstandings or complete lack of understanding about mindfulness and mindful eating. So can you talk about some misunderstood concepts about mindful eating that potentially people just don't recognize the impact of the need to be mindful about the eating?
Certainly, yeah, there are quite a few misconceptions. I think the first one coming to mind is that the thought that there's no structure to it, right? You just wake up and start eating mindfully, start paying attention to stuff. There absolutely is a structure, there's a process, but there aren't really any rules. And that's what makes it different. That's what one of the differentiators between it and a diet. A diet has a whole bunch of rules. You follow the rules and you get an outcome. Okay, so it's outcome based. Mindful eating is just, it's a process, but you do follow some loose structure to it. And so it's more process based and not outcome based. There isn't a final end journey. It's this fuller journey that you're on, but there is actually a method to support it.
Mm-hmm.
I think another big one is that people tend to think that it's easy or it's easier than being on a diet. Again, you just wake up and I'll pay attention to what I'm eating.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy. A diet in itself is actually pretty easy. Somebody's given you a rule book that you just have to follow. You make a checklist. Did I eat that? Did I not eat this? Am I allowed to eat that? And as long as you follow these rules, you are supposedly going to have this miraculous transformation, which, as we all know, doesn't tend to last very long. Mindful eating, it's not easier because what you're doing is changing your behavior. So you're not just following rules, you're actually going in and learning all about yourself or relearning things that you inherently knew as a child. You used to know when you were full and you just stopped eating. You used to know when you were hungry and you looked for food, real hunger. And now we confuse real hunger with emotional hunger. And we eat all the time, or we just eat because we're bored. So there's a lot of reasons that we eat and those behaviors get triggered. So you're going in through mindfulness to understand those behaviors and then change them. It's not easy work, but again, it's very powerful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's a really great way to explain it because I don't think people really recognize the difference between the rules and the structure. Mm-hmm. Not a lot of rules, but definitely a structure or a foundation to follow. So yeah, I really like that. Okay, so I want to shift gears just a tad and talk about your book. You are the author of a book, Food, Feelings, and Freedom, The End to Emotional Eating. Many of our students, or a certain percentage of our students, when they graduate, have the goal of writing books. And so I thought it would be really helpful if you could talk about the process of, first of all, why did you want to write a book? What kind of prompted you to want to do that? And then what was the process like? And then what was the publishing like? Because I think that the publishing aspect sometimes can be a little challenging. So if you could just help talk through some of those things that you experienced and decisions that you made, I think it would be helpful for our students.
Terrific. So I wrote the book again out of my own journey and trying to work through and not panic attack anymore. And where am I at? And in that journey, realizing that I'm an emotional eater. And it was an important aha moment for me because I never saw myself as an emotional eater. I don't fit what we call as the stereotype eater, right? We tend to stereotype emotional eaters into one being quite overweight. I'm not, and I wasn't at the time. Eating at midnight, I don't, and I never did. Hiding food off in the corner from people. I was very open. I was like, share my chips, share my chocolate. So I didn't think I was an emotional eater, but once I had that epiphany and realized that, wow, I am eating food that doesn't really nourish me, and I'm eating it at the weirdest times of day, and certain things are triggering me, and I was absolutely using food to control. Absolutely. And if it wasn't to control, then it was either to numb or escape. And those are all signs of emotional eating. So again, through this process, I also recognize that, oh my gosh, the majority of the clients that I have helped the most are emotional eaters. And we've explored the feelings and the emotions behind their food choices. So I was naturally helping people that were like me and didn't even know it. So I had to write this book. I had to pull from my own experiences and my experiences working with them, because I realized that working one-on-one, I only reach one person at a time. But writing a book means that I can reach hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people with this message and hopefully find some support for them. So it was important for me to have this book out there. Now, when I pulled it together, the process was actually pretty easy. I wrote the book in about 100 days. Sat down, my free hours, focused, got my writing done, but I do love to write. So the writing piece was actually pretty easy. I then hired an editor to go through and check spelling and grammar and make sure that it flowed correctly. And that went very quickly as well. She came back with the edits, done. I could do the graphic piece, creating the cover and the layout, but I didn't have time for that. So I hired somebody, totally worth the money, by the way. Hired somebody to do that. And I think she had it done in 3 days, which probably would have taken me 3 months. So I now have this beautiful formatted book, and I had been at the same time sending letters to publishers about my book and excited for somebody to say, yes, we want to publish you. And I either got no response or I did get 2 rejection letters. So heart crushing. Oh, but after researching a lot around the publishing stuff, it's actually very hard to get a publishing company to take you on. And there's a lot of authors who hire agents who spend, their full-time working hours just trying to get your book placed. So I decided to go the self-publishing route. I thought I just need my book out there. And I did. I self-published first as an ebook. And then I got a lot of feedback from people saying, I would love to have a tangible copy that I could highlight things. And I have recipes in my book. So they wanted to have the recipes in the kitchen with them. So then I had it reformatted a little bit for a print version. So I have it available through my website as an ebook and on Lulu as print. And I'm actually going to be putting it on Amazon either this month or next month. So I'm excited for the progress about it. Mm-hmm. I will tell you this, if you are interested in writing a book, be very clear on your intention and why behind your writing of it. Because when I had it ready to go, I thought the book is released to the world. I will now get 1 million people saying, yes, finally the help is here. And I had 200 people get the book. And I went, oh, okay, that wasn't quite what I wanted. That's when reality kicked in, that the biggest part around the book is the marketing and promotion. Writing it is pretty easy. Pretty much anybody can write a book, hire a graphic designer, and get it published. If you really want to make it successful and financially stable, grammar today, then you need to really market it and push it. And that can become a full-time job in itself. But it's not a quick get rich overnight kind of thing. So if you're writing it to support your clients and to make you more of an expert in the field, I will say that I've received a lot of speaking engagements internationally, even because I have a book. So that's very beneficial for my business in a bigger, broader capacity. But if you're really looking at, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to be a bestseller and I'm going to sell 1 million copies, maybe that's awesome. But it will take a lot of effort and time to do that. So write a book. I think it's fabulous and wonderful to have it out there, but just know why and the effort that it takes to make it happen.
I love that advice. Thank you. And I really like how you say that having a book was the jumping off point for you to get speaking engagements. So you're not so needing to sell your book, but the speaking and the teaching then follows. And maybe that is, you know, also feeding your soul to be able to give that, that information to people in that way. So thank you for saying that. And thanks for that advice about being an author. That's really helpful. So those are all the questions I have for you. And I just want to honor your time, but also mention to those who are watching this PodTalk and podcast are going to be published very soon, in time for people to hear this. In case they are interested in taking the Mindful Eating Seminar, you can find that on NTI's website. If you see this or hear it after Amber's class, which is the first week of April, we plan to have her back regularly. So even if you don't get signed up for this one that's coming up here in a couple of weeks, there will be other opportunities to do that if that's something you're interested in. So anything else you want to share before we take off? How about ways to reach you and to find you?
Certainly, yes. I'm easily found through my website, which is youareboundless.com. That's YOUARE boundless.com. Links to my book, social media, email, everything is on there. But you can also reach out to me on email at amber@youareboundless.com too. Those are easily available. And I guess I would just add that I look forward to teaching this next class. I'm so excited about it. I'm, of course, very passionate about it. And it is a 4-week enrichment class, Thursdays in the evening.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Thank you for saying that.
Certainly.
All right, great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to be here. I really appreciate it. I think that it's going to be an enlightening, quick discussion that people are going to get some good information out of. So thank you so much. Good. And have a great afternoon.
You too. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks.